everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Closer Look. I'm Arabina Afia. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you've ever lived through a major storm here in the Bahamas, then you know the wind might stop, but the chaos does not. Roads are blocked, power is down, and people are trying to reach loved ones to figure out if they even have a roof over their heads. Tonight on A Closer Look, we're turning our attention to what happens after a storm makes landfall. Whether you've just been through the storm or you're trying to prepare for the aftermath now, this episode is about making sense of the chaos and learning how to recover better. Stay tuned, we have more right after the break.
Un, deux, trois. Depuis que je t'ai vu, je ne pense que ma pieuvre m'a-t-elle oublié. Après toutes ces heures, elle m'attendra là où nous nous sommes. Elle a changé, elle m'attendra, elle m'attendra, elle m'attendra. Mais comment lui faire savoir? Comment la convaincre? J'aimerais la revoir sans qu'elle me murmure. La peut-être changer, la fenêtre sera fermée. Reviendras-tu, mais comme pas jamais?
Not every emergency during a storm is about the weather. Now, if we're being honest, nobody, and I mean nobody, likes paying insurance. That is, until something goes wrong and it's the only thing standing between you and a major loss. So whether you're a homeowner, a renter, or just someone trying to protect what's yours, knowing your options before a storm hits is critical. ACL correspondent Krishna Russell breaks down the policies, the fine print, and the moves you need to make now while there's still time. Krishna?
With the start of hurricane season, industry experts gave us the 411 on how to protect our homes and property. While you check all of the boxes of preparation this hurricane season, it is important to consider life should your home or property suffer damage in a storm. As Insurance Management's Chief Operations Officer Mark A. Gardner put it, a proper insurance is one of the most important ways to protect your financial future.
Well, we can't stop storms from coming. If you are impacted, you're going to need to be able to rebuild. And insurance is that mechanism that allows you to put yourself back in the position that you were in prior to the loss. We call that indemnification in the industry. Without it, you would be financially devastated.
According to Mr. Gardner, a good homeowner's insurance has several broad elements that protects the vested interest of the owner, and you should be keen to note whether that policy includes or excludes catastrophic events like hurricanes.
The home policy has several elements attached to it. You'll have one section that speaks to the building, another section that speaks to the contents, one section speaks to liability, and so on, right? As a homeowner, you have a vested interest in the building itself. So all of the elements in the policy can apply to you.
But he urges not to wait until the very last minute to seek proper insurance coverage for your home.
Once a storm is developed and it's on track to impact a particular locale, the insurer has the discretion to issue a cessation order at any point. That could be even as far as a week out.
Mr. Gardner left these tips to get homeowners ready to protect their investments.
First and foremost, be proactive. Don't wait until something develops to try and get coverage, because at that point, you're taking a gamble. It may not be guaranteed that you will get coverage. If you do have insurance and you're impacted, I would say notify your insurer as soon as practicable. Don't wait weeks down the line or try to do repairs on your own and then come with a bunch of receipts and say, hey, this is what I did. No, let your insurer know as soon as you can. Mitigate your loss as much as you can.
He also encourages taking photographs of your home and property before a storm approaches for a seamless claims process. So let us make our preparations not only about our families, but protecting our properties. For A Closer Look, I'm Krishna Russell.
When the call comes to evacuate, the clock starts ticking, and whether you're with family, living alone, or trying to reach someone across town, those next few moments can get overwhelming very quickly. In this reenactment, we walk through the real choices that families often face when such an order is given.
When a storm is approaching, every family should get storm ready. Preparation starts at home with a clear plan and the right supplies.
A few weeks ago, we had the opportunity to visit the Sands family and learn how they prepare for storms this hurricane season.
When it comes to storm prep for our family, we all have a role to play. My mom, she makes sure that all of our important documents are put away. She makes sure we have emergency kits or any medical supplies or any medicine or anything that we need.
My job is securing the outside. That is, all the patio furniture must be secured. All of the plants and everything must be up against the building to make sure that they don't become missiles flying into the windows and everything else. And the windows must be secured at all times.
A basic emergency kit can make all the difference. Pack enough water, at least 1 gallon per person per day. Add non-perishable food for 3 days, a flashlight, extra batteries, and a radio. Don't forget essential medicines, first aid, and important documents. Review evacuation routes and know the nearest shelters. Secure your home by reinforcing windows, doors, and bringing in loose outdoor items before the storm.
The biggest lesson that I've learned, make sure to prepare way ahead of time.
Always be prepared. When you are, like my father does, during the summer break, he goes in all the stores and he picks up flashlights. Whether he needs them or not, he picks up excess batteries, which allows us to have access to those things because he has so many of those items. But always be prepared way in advance.
Be sure to get your information from the Department of Meteorology and the Disaster Risk Management Authority.
Remember, readiness isn't panic, it's protection. Learn more on how to prep your hurricane kit at getready.gov.bs. Reporting for A Closer Look, I'm Larissa Lundy.
Stay with us. There's more show on the other side of the break, so stay tuned.
This is the National Youth Guard program designed to train young people to help the Bahama Islands in times of disaster.
I decided to join to better serve my country as well as to better myself.
We train the help in search and rescue,
electrical, plumbing, and carpentry,
and things that they can actually expand on in their careers.
Young people who join the Youth Guard program discover a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, and a sense of patriotism.
This program isn't about only the individuals, it is about the country.
When the call comes to evacuate, the clock starts ticking, and whether you're with family, living alone, or trying to reach someone across town, those next few moments can get overwhelming very quickly. Well, it's one thing to hear from the experts, but what are average everyday Bahamians doing to get ready? From evacuation plans to pet prep to the one thing we always forget, these are the voices that matter most.
When hurricanes threaten the Bahamas, it's not just homes that need to prepare, but our businesses need to do so as well. We're visiting Sign Island, a local business that knows all too well what it takes to brace for storms and natural disasters. From securing valuable equipment to protecting fragile signage and storefronts, the team at Sign Island has built a disaster prep plan into their operations. It's a mix of strategy, experience, and a deep commitment to community.
We check with the weather forecast and prepare our team. We have an SOP in place where we have 2 or 3 days preparation prior to that. In that time, we would provide any materials that we may need, like sandbags or hard, heavy-duty plastic. We would also arrange with our electricians so that they will be down to secure and make sure that everything is okay with the building. Each person is responsible for something in different area that helps secure the company during that time.
Because we are in a very sensitive industry, we have to make sure we're ahead of the game. All of our electronics, those are our lifeline. Because if we have any issues with those, then we will be down and that will end up causing a queue with our work.
our production manager and print person and team would ensure that everything is in a secure area to ensure that nothing gets damaged during that time.
The first thing we have is our Slack implementation, which is a communication system that we're able to communicate through the computers as well as our mobile apps. Aside from that, we have contact of every of the members inside our departments. So we're able to communicate and keep checks on each other because sometimes internet goes down, so we have to try and communicate as well as possible.
All your equipment, all your devices is your day-to-day operation, is how you run, but being prepared and also informing the team is the most important thing.
In every hurricane season, resilience starts long before the first wind blows. And for the small business community, having a disaster relief plan is a key part of hurricane preparation. Reporting for a closer look, I'm Preston Ferguson Jr.
Evacuation sounds simple, that is, until you're in the moment and everything feels like a blur. Where are the shelters? What do I pack? What about my parents? What about my pets? The truth is that the decision to leave or stay could be the most important one you make in the middle of a storm. Aaron Scavella has the street check in this next report. Aaron?
When the winds die down and the floodwaters recede, the real work begins. So how prepared are we today? And how far have we come since the devastation of storms like Dorian and other major hurricanes?
After the catastrophic hurricanes in the past years like Hurricane Dorian and Matthew, residents indicated that the hope is that as a nation, we become more proactive in regards to preparation and recovery initiatives.
Beforehand, like years before Dorian, a lot of people, their hurricane preparation was to go to the liquor store, throw a party, plan what you're going to do the day after the storm because you didn't think it was real. But now people take it more seriously, and I see people preparing.
It can be a very dangerous time, so we would like to be prepared as you would need to be during the storm and after the storm, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what effect it's going to leave the country. And the last major hurricane we had, we were left in a devastated state.
Some residents say they look out for updates from trusted sources after the storm before they make any moves.
Disaster relief preparedness, that group I would rely on. And I would also make sure to listen to the public communication system, because that would be the most update information.
I am a Twitter girly, so I definitely get my updates from the Twitter feed. Radio as well, listening to the news.
Many stress the importance of trained agencies like the Bahamas Red Cross and Royal Bahamas Defense Force, acknowledging the government's progress and emphasizing the need for strong support and outreach after storms hit.
I've seen the way that they've been active in the hotlines, active in recovery efforts, active in making sure that people evacuate ahead of time, or at least are put on notice and recommended to evacuate whether they choose to or not. And I've seen where they've actually tried to communicate more as it relates to impending storms and efforts to be ready for storms.
While there's still work to be done, the Bahamian spirit continues to rise stronger, storm after storm. For a closer look, I'm Aaron Scavella.
Stay tuned. We have more of a closer look right after this short break. After storms is when the real questions start. Where do we go? Who gets help first? And how do we take care of our minds and our bodies in the middle of it all? Joining me tonight are Aaron Sargent, the Managing Director of the Disaster Risk Management Authority, Mr. Edison Sumner from the Bahamas Red Cross, and climate mental health psychiatrist, Dr. Petra Forbes. We're talking national response, long-term sheltering, and mental health, and what it looks like to not just recover physically, but mentally as well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Let's start with you, Mr. Sargent. I think one of the questions that often comes up is what is being done to ensure that every single island has an effective plan?
So the DRM Authority, by legislation, mandates that every Family Island administrator, along with their disaster risk management consultative committees, develop a Family Island disaster risk management plan. And I'm happy to note that a number of our Family Island administrators are developing those plans in conjunction with the DRM Authority. And that talks about everything from evacuation plans to shelters and activation and how we support them during those times of when there's a crisis.
Mm-hmm. Does the DRM or can the DRM provide supplies directly after a storm? And can you talk about what residents should do or should be doing now to, become more self-reliant in the event of a disaster?
Yes, definitely the DRM Authority provides supplies as well as we coordinate the relief supplies as mandated by our legislation. One of the key and critical things that this legislation provides is the establishment of two funds, which is a preventative fund and a response fund. And that allows us to do a lot of preparatory work and then from the response phase, a lot of the response and recovery efforts, which is purchasing relief supplies like hygiene kits, potable water, food supplies, etc. What I would say to residents as, not to wait. We've been saying to residents not to wait. I think that what happens is we wait for the last minute. Once we make that announcement on TV that we're under threat, and then go and prepare and buy supplies. And at that time, it becomes a grave expense to most residents.
Well, I think this is a good place to rope in Mr. Sumner. Because of the work of the Red Cross, how do you determine who receives assistance first? Mr. Sargent spoke about the work that the DRM does, and you guys, the Red Cross, that is usually one of the first organizations on the ground. How are you determining who gets help first? Because obviously it's a very touchy situation, especially in cases of disaster where everyone feels that they are entitled to assistance and immediate assistance.
Certainly.
First of all, let me say that the Red Cross is actually an auxiliary to the government. Right, and we are ordinarily the first responders on the scene after natural disaster happens, and that means that we are there to support the government efforts in what they do, whether it's in disaster management and recovery, whether it's through shelter management, etc. So when we get into a situation where we are doing an assessment after, let's say, a hurricane, we would then determine through our field work where the exigencies are. We determine based on our assessment of the situation in the community who are the ones in the community who are most vulnerable to the as a result of the storm that has passed, seeing what their needs are, seeing how severe the situation is in each community, and we then, through our volunteer base and our experts that we send into the field, we're able to determine through application, through interviews, through field work, which individuals or families or communities may be most in need of support. And that's how we determine the severity of the need. So it goes from really being the severity of what's required down to the most insevere things that are required from these communities. And that listing is then revised on a consistent basis, and support is then provided to those individuals based on the severity of the need that we assess in those communities.
You mentioned the relationship with the government organizations. What sort of relationship exists between the Red Cross and other NGOs who are often called in to be on the ground and to provide that support as well?
So we understand that even though the Red Cross is the main humanitarian organization, we cannot do the work that we do alone. We have to be in partnership with government agencies like the DRM. And I'm very pleased, and I'm sure that Mr. Sargent will back me up in this, that we have a wonderful relationship with the DRM. We also serve as a part of their committee, and they've got someone serving on the Red Cross's committee. So we work very well together. But we also have to work with other government agencies, like the Department of Social Services, for example. We work closely with the police. We work with the Defense Force. We work with other civic organizations like Rotary Clubs, for example. So we have to tap into the resources that are available to us, not only from the Red Cross's perspective, right? Because we don't have all the resources. So we've got to know where the resources are, and we've got to tap into those resources through partnerships, through collaboration, and that gives us the opportunity to be sure that we are meeting all of the touch points. Even when it comes to psychosocial support services, we've got to tap into those expertise as well, because in many cases we find that that's a very much needed resource that we need to have on hand when we're assessing situations in these disaster-prone areas.
Well, Dr. Forbes, that's a great place for you to jump into the conversation because, you know, as Mr. Sumner mentioned, the mental health impact of natural disasters like hurricanes are far-reaching and they're often not addressed, right? So can you talk about why it's extremely important, you know, in your work to prioritize mental health as part of the preparation, hurricane preparation process?
Excellent question, and I'm honored to be here. And Hurricane Dorian is what actually drew me into this specialty. I volunteered after the disaster in Grand Bahama and did research on it. And there was a 26-fold increase in depression after Hurricane Dorian and a 12-fold increase in post-traumatic stress disorders. And a lot of times, my colleagues are addressing the trauma that you can see, but I'm here to address the trauma that you cannot see. And a lot of persons experience eco-anxiety. They experience post-traumatic stress disorder. And when hurricane season comes around again, they also experience anniversary grief. And we have also seen an increase in substance abuse.
Wow. So those are, like you said, those are the things that are not readily seen. Can you speak to, in your work, in your research, especially on Grand Bahama, some of the emotional and psychological reactions that people have experienced?
So in terms of the emotional and psychological reactions, the main two were the eco-anxiety and the post-traumatic stress disorders.
What does that mean when you say eco-anxiety?
So with anxiety, you have several types of anxiety. You have your phobias, you have your social anxiety, you have generalized anxiety. But eco-anxiety is specific to natural disaster. And they have increased stressors, you see increased cortisol, and ultimately that weakens the immune system as well.
So what message, you know, would you give as a mental health care professional to Bahamians who have experienced, you know, or who continue to experience what you're describing, that eco-anxiety, that depression associated with a disaster like hurricanes?
My advice would be that expressing your emotions is not a weakness, and getting help is actually a strength. And the World Health Organization, as well as the CDC, emphasizes community-based mental health and community-based support. And individuals do a lot better when they reach out and they have the social support and they get early intervention instead of struggling in silence.
Well, Mr. Sargent, I want to bring it back to you because I think one of the things that often happens, you know, once a storm passes, the all clear is given and people think, okay, clearance, I can go outside. I want to go see what happened, what damage happened. I want to be, you know, one of the first ones to say, I saw this. Or so from your perspective as someone working with the DRM, you know, what does that mean? When you say all clear, what does that mean? And what should Bahamians remember or keep in mind as we go through that sort of recovery process?
So it simply means you should do exactly opposite of what you described. We don't take the all clear very lightly, and what we are working on through our comms relationships with the Department of Meteorology is establishing the protocols clearly, so when we say all clear or the Met Office delivers an all clear or all weather clear, you understand what that means. And simply for us it means before that order is given, we want you to stay indoors. You traversing through the streets hampers the role and work of first responders who are working diligently. There may be to clear down the electricity lines, there may be flooding, and so you're putting yourself at risk by doing so. And so we want to encourage Bahamians to stay home, stay indoors until we give the all clear sign to traverse. And even before that, what you can do at home is to inspect your properties immediately after the storms to check the structural safety of your home to ensure that what the damage is. You take pictures for your loss adjusters, because that's a critical component of getting some help from your insurance companies. And so we encourage people to follow the instructions of the authority when that instruction is given.
What if you had to evacuate your home? Like, when is it safe to re-enter your property after a storm has passed?
Well, firstly, it will be once we give that all clear for you to move from the shelter to go back home. And before you enter your home, like I said earlier, we would want you to conduct a general inspection to see if there are gas leaks, if there are structural damage, if the roof is still structurally sound before you go indoors. And that's something that either you can do privately. I know from time to time we do rapid damage assessments once a hazard is passed. And so from time to time you will see assessors going throughout your communities advising homeowners. And if you want to do it privately, you can have either engineers or architects support you in that initiative.
I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, and that's about the recovery plan. I know it's usually recommended that you have a sort of 6 to 12 month recovery plan in terms of, depending on the severity of the storm. What does that look like on a national level?
From a national perspective, it simply means for us in the early recovery phase or the early response phase, it involves the authority along with our stakeholders like the Red Cross, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, conducting an initial damage assessment. So that's before the all clear is given. We would send our first responders in to assess what is on the ground before we can provide relief supplies. Once that occurs, then we move into the next phase, which is immediate response to the needs, whether that's providing relief items, immediate tarp for home repairs, etc. And then that usually takes from 0 to the first 6 months of any recovery effort. Once it passes that becomes a medium and long-term recovery effort. And usually in the fashion that we're moving is to allow for government entities to take lead of those long-term recovery efforts. And so if it's government infrastructure, that would be Public Works. If it's home repairs, it would be Ministry of Housing, Department of Urban Renewal, etc., to ensure that we recover. And that's one of the lessons I think learned from Hurricane Dorian. Ensuring that we have a coordinated response to recovery, I think, is critical.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you all for being here, for being a part of this ongoing conversation. I know that there's still a lot that can be said, and I'm hoping that Bahamians are following your advice and starting now in terms of their preparation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We have more of a closer look right after this break.
June the 1st marks the beginning of the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, and I address you with the seriousness that this time of year demands. Forecasters have warned that we are facing an above-average season, with predictions of 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. These are sobering figures, but I want to reassure you today that the government of the Bahamas is ready. My brothers and sisters, the best time to prepare is long before the storm is on the horizon. Do not wait for a warning to get ready. Know your shelter, stock your supplies, secure your home, and make a family plan. Our ongoing theme is simple and urgent. Don't wait. Get storm ready.
If dealing with dangerous storms has taught us anything, it's that life simply doesn't pick up where it left off, especially after a storm. For many, recovery is slow, it's expensive, and it's heavy. But it's also where we see the best of who we are. Neighbors show up to help neighbors, strangers step in, and entire communities refuse to be defined by disaster. From rebuilding homes to protecting the mental health of their residents around them, the road back can be long, but it's one that we walk together. I'm Arabina Apia. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Stay safe, stay grounded, and as always, stay ready. This has been A Closer Look. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.